He turned to leave, then she whispered, "Please." "I still love you." Asterisk. The desert wind howled across the Crimson Canyon as Captain Zara, Nightwind, adjusted her scanner's frequency. Her solo expedition to planet Zarian 7 was supposed to be routine. Mapping and mineral analysis, nothing more. The metallic ping echoing through her helmet changed everything. She crested the rocky ridge and froze. Below her, twisted metal gleamed against the orange sand. A spacecraft, unlike anything in the human fleet database, lay crumpled like a broken wing. Steam rose from its hull, and strange blue lights flickered weakly along its damaged exterior. Zara's heart raced as she descended into the canyon. Her boots crunched on crystalline debris that sparkled like scattered jewels. The ship's design was elegant, yet alien, with flowing curves that seemed to pulse even in its broken state. She approached, cautiously, hand hovering near her sidearm. A soft groan made her spin around. Behind a cluster of fallen rocks, she saw movement. Her breath caught as a figure emerged, stumbling and clearly injured. He was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with skin that shimmered like moonlight on water. His hair was silver-white flowing past. His shoulders and his eyes were the deep purple of twilight skies. Blood, startlingly red despite his alien features, trickled from a gash across his forehead. His clothing, made of some iridescent material, was torn and singed. When their eyes met, time seemed to suspend itself in the desert air. He spoke, his voice melodic despite his obvious pain, but the words were incomprehensible. Zara pulled off her helmet, letting her dark hair fall free, and raised her hands to show she meant no harm. "Not going to hurt you," she said softly, though she knew he couldn't understand. Something in her tone must have conveyed her meaning, because his rigid posture relaxed slightly. He took a step toward her and stumbled. Without thinking, Zara rushed forward, catching him before he fell. His skin was surprisingly warm, and she felt a strange tingling where they touched. He looked down at her with those incredible purple eyes, and she saw pain, fear, and something else, something that made her pulse quicken. "Zara," she said, pointing to herself. She repeated it slowly, hoping he would understand. His lips curved. In what might have been a smile, he pressed a long-fingered hand to his chest and spoke a single word that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Kale." She helped him sit on a smooth boulder, noting how he favored his left side. His breathing was labored, and she could see more injuries beneath his torn clothing. Her medical training kicked in, overriding her amazement at this first contact. With alien life from her pack, she retrieved her medical scanner and basic supplies. Kale watched with curious eyes as she worked, occasionally wincing when she cleaned his wounds. The scanner showed internal injuries that concerned her, but nothing immediately life-threatening. As she worked, she found herself stealing glances at his face. His features were sharp, yet elegant, definitely masculine despite their alien nature. When their eyes met, she felt that strange flutter again, as if her heart recognized something her mind couldn't quite. Grasped. Kale reached out tentatively and touched a strand of her hair that had fallen across her shoulder. His expression was one of wonder, and he spoke softly in his musical language. She couldn't understand the words. The gentle tone made her cheeks warm. The sun was beginning to set, painting the canyon walls in shades of gold and crimson. Zara knew she had to make a decision. Protocol demanded she report this contact immediately. But something deep inside her rebelled against the thought of Kale being taken away, studied, possibly imprisoned. She looked at his ship again, noting the extensive damage. He wasn't going anywhere soon, and by the way, he kept glancing at the sky with worried eyes. She suspected he didn't want to be found by whoever might come looking. "Come with me," she said, offering her hand. "I have a place where you'll be safe." Though he couldn't understand her words, Kale seemed to grasp her meaning. He hesitated for a moment, then placed his hand in hers. The contact sent warmth shooting up her arm, and she saw his eyes widen as if he felt it too, as they walked together toward her hidden research station. Zara wondered what she was getting herself into. She was risking everything for a being she'd just met, someone she couldn't even communicate with properly. Yet something about Kale called to her, as if they were two lost souls finding each other across the vastness of space. The first stars were appearing. In the darkening sky, when they reached her sanctuary, both of them carrying the weight of a moment that would change everything. Zara's research station was built into a natural cave system, hidden from orbital scans by the mineral-rich rock formations. Solar collectors disguised as natural crystals powered the facility, while thermal vents provided heating. Months making it completely self-sufficient and invisible. Kale's eyes widened as they entered the main living area. Soft lighting revealed a space that was part laboratory, part home. Books and data tablets lined shelves carved into the rock walls, while plants from various worlds created patches of green throughout the space. She guided him to the medical bay, a small alcove equipped with a diagnostic bed and treatment equipment. Kale hesitated at the threshold, his purple eyes darting between the equipment and her face. She realized he might be afraid of human technology. "It's okay," she said gently, demonstrating with the handheld scanner. "This will help you heal faster." Her soothing tone seemed to reassure him. He allowed her to help him onto the bed, though she noticed how his muscles tensed when the scanner activated. The detailed readings showed his internal injuries were more serious than she'd initially thought, but treatable with her advanced medical supplies. As she worked, Kale began to relax. He watched her face intently, occasionally speaking in his melodic language. She found herself responding in English, both of them seeming to understand the emotional content, if not the words. "You're not from around here, are you?" she asked, while applying a healing accelerator to his ribs. "And I don't think you crashed by accident." Kale's expression grew troubled. He touched the communication device on her workbench, then pointed to the sky and shook his head emphatically. His meaning was clear. He didn't want anyone to know he was here, while the medical treatments worked. Zara prepared food, choosing items that her scanner indicated would be safe for his physiology. She was surprised to discover their biochemistries were remarkably compatible. Kale accepted the meal gratefully, though he ate slowly, as if savoring each bite. After dinner, she showed him to the guest quarters, a small chamber with a comfortable bed and basic amenities. But as she turned to leave, Kale caught her hand. The contact sent that familiar tingle through her, stronger now. He spoke urgently, his grip tightening slightly. Though she couldn't understand his words, his tone conveyed longing, and perhaps fear of being alone. Zara felt her heart clench with empathy. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised, settling into the chair beside his bed. "I'll stay right here." Relief flooded Kale's features. He lay back but kept her hand in his, as if she were his anchor in this strange new world. Zara watched him drift toward sleep, studying the peaceful expression on his alien yet beautiful face. Over the following days, they developed their own form of communication. Kale proved to be a quick learner, picking up basic English words with startling speed. In return, he taught her phrases in his language, which he called astral. His name, she learned, meant start touched in his tongue. "Start touched," Zara repeated, practicing the pronunciation. "It suits you." Kale smiled, the expression transforming his entire face. "Zara," he said carefully in accented English. "Name means ... light in darkness." She felt her cheeks warm. "How do you know that?" He tapped his temple, then gestured to her scanner. Somehow, he'd been using her equipment to learn about human language and culture. His intelligence was remarkable, and she found herself increasingly drawn to both his mind and his gentle nature. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset through the cave entrance, Kale finally began to share his story. His words were halting, but clear enough to understand the basics. He was a refugee, fleeing from his own people, who had branded him a traitor for refusing to participate in their war against another species. "I could not kill," he said simply. "My heart." Zara moved closer to him. On the rocky ledge where they sat, "That doesn't make you weak, Kale. It makes you brave." Looked at her with those incredible purple eyes, and she saw something shift in their depths. Slowly, as if afraid she might pull away, he reached up to touch her face. His fingers were gentle against her cheek, and she found herself leaning into the caress. "Zara," he whispered. her name like music on his lips. The space between them seemed to shrink until she could feel the warmth of his breath on her skin.
Ow.
She knew she should step back, maintain professional distance, but every instinct screamed against it. This connection she felt with Cale was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. "I should contact the authorities," she whispered, though even as she said it, she knew she wouldn't. "Report your crash. Get you proper help." Cale's hand stilled against her cheek. "Please," he said, the English word heavy with emotion. "Stay with me, only you understand." His vulnerability broke something loose inside her chest. Here was a being who had lost everything, fled across the stars, and crashed on a hostile world. Yet he wasn't asking for rescue or escape. He was asking for her. As the last light faded from the sky, Zara made her choice. She leaned forward and pressed her lips gently to his. The kiss was soft, tentative, but it ignited something profound between them. When they broke apart, Cale's eyes were bright with wonder and something deeper. Whatever came next, whatever dangers followed him across the void, Zara knew she would face them at his side. 3 weeks passed in their hidden sanctuary, and Zara found herself falling deeper under Cale's spell with each passing day. His injuries had healed remarkably fast, and he'd grown stronger and more confident. More importantly, his English had improved dramatically, allowing for real conversations that lasted long into the night. They spent their days exploring the canyon system together, with Cale marveling at the geological formations, while Zara cataloged new mineral deposits. His knowledge of astronomy and physics astounded her, and she realized his people were far more advanced than humanity. "Your world is beautiful," Cale said one afternoon as they sat by a natural spring deep in the caves. "So much life, so much color. My planet, before the war, it was all silver cities and crystal towers. Beautiful, but cold." Zara noticed how his expression grew distant whenever he mentioned his home. "Tell me about the war, Cale. What really happened?" He was quiet. For so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with old pain. "My people, the Valkyrie, we are an ancient race. We believed ourselves superior to all others. When we discovered the Cathrone worlds, our council decided they were inferior, dangerous. They ordered their extinction." The words hit Zara like a physical blow. "Genocide?" Cale nodded, his hands clenching into fists. "I was military commander, born to lead our fleets. But when I saw Cathrone children, their cities full of art and music and love, I could not do it. I refused orders, helped some escape. My own people declared me traitor." Zara reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers. His skin felt warm and slightly electric against hers. "You saved lives, Cale. That's not betrayal. That's heroism. Not too Valkyrie." His purple eyes met hers, filled with a pain that made her heart ache. "They hunt me now. If they find me, they will take me back for public execution. Example for others who might show mercy." The implications crashed over her. "How long before they track you here? My ship beacon was damaged in crash. It gives me time, but not forever. They have ways to find me. Always do." He turned his body toward hers, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek. "Zara, I am dangerous for you. Maybe I should leave, find ships somehow." "No," the word came out fiercer than she intended. "You're not going anywhere. We'll figure this out together." Something flared in Cale's eyes at her declaration. Before she could react, he leaned forward and captured her lips with his. This kiss was different from their first, deeper and more urgent. She could taste his desperation, his gratitude, and, underneath it all, something that made her pulse race. When they broke apart, both breathing heavily, Cale rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, Zara, Nightwind. In all languages of all worlds, I love you." Her breath caught. She'd known her feelings were growing deeper each day, but hearing him say those words made everything crystal clear. "I love you too, Cale Starborn. Whatever happens, I'm not letting you face it alone." He kissed her again, and this time she melted into him completely. His hands tangled in her hair as she pressed closer, feeling the solid warmth of his chest against hers. When his lips moved, To trail kisses along her neck, she sighed and tilted her head to give him better access. "You make me feel alive again," he whispered against her skin. "Before you, I was just existing, running, surviving. Now I have reason to live." She pulled back to look at him, seeing the raw honesty in his extraordinary eyes. "You have me, Kale? For as long as you want me." "Forever," he said without hesitation. "I want you forever." The intensity in his voice sent shivers through her. She knew they were standing at the edge of something profound, something that would change both their lives irreversibly. But as she looked into his alien yet beloved face, she felt no fear, only certainty. That night, they made love for the first time, their bodies coming together with a passion that transcended species or worlds. Kale's touch was reverent, as if she were something precious and fragile. Now his alien anatomy brought sensations she'd never imagined possible. Afterward, as they lay entwined in her bed, Zara traced patterns on his chest with her fingertip. His skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, and she could feel the steady rhythm of his heart beneath her palm. "Whatever your people throw at us, we'll face it," she said quietly. "I mean it, Kale. I'm not losing you." He tightened his arms around her, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "My fierce little human warrior," he murmured. "If love could be weapon, yours would conquer galaxies." But even as they held each other close, both knew their peaceful sanctuary couldn't last forever. Somewhere among the stars, hunters were searching, and it was only a matter of time before their perfect world came crashing down. The morning would bring new challenges, but for now, they had this moment. This perfect connection that proved love could bloom even in the darkest circumstances. Zara woke to the sound of her proximity alarm screaming through the cave system. Beside her, Kale was already sitting up, his enhanced hearing having detected the approaching ships before her sensors did. His face had gone pale, his purple eyes wide with a terror she'd never seen before. "They found me," he whispered, his voice hollow with defeat. "I brought death to your door, beloved."
Out.
She rolled out of bed, grabbing her clothes and emergency pack. "How long do we have?"
Ow.
Kale closed, his eyes tilting his head as if listening to something beyond human perception. "Minutes, maybe less. 3 ships, full hunting pack. They are ... excited for the kill." The cave shuddered as energy weapons began carving through the rock above them. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and several of her carefully arranged crystals shattered. Zara's heart clenched as she realized her sanctuary was being destroyed, but her only real concern was keeping Kale safe. "The back exit," she said, shouldering her pack. "I mapped an escape route through the lower caves. We can reach the canyon, where I keep my emergency shuttle." They ran through the collapsing tunnels, Kale's hand gripping hers tightly. Behind them, she could hear voices speaking in the musical language of his people. But these voices were harsh, filled with cruel anticipation. The hunters had found their prey. A blast of superheated air told her they'd breached the main chamber. Kale stumbled, crying out as if in physical pain. She realized he could sense his people's emotions, their bloodlust hitting him like a physical blow. "Stay with me," she urged, pulling him deeper into the maze of natural passages. "Don't listen to them. Focus on my voice." They emerged into a narrow canyon just as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. Zara's shuttle sat concealed beneath a camouflage net, exactly where she'd left it. But as they approached, figures materialized from the shadows. 3 Valkyrie warriors stepped into view, their silver armor gleaming in the dying light. They were tall like Kale, but broader, more intimidating. Their faces were cold masks of contempt, and they carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. The leader, a female with intricate markings covering her skin, spoke in rapid astral. Though Zara couldn't understand the words, the tone was mocking, vicious. Kale responded in the same language, his voice steady despite the terror she could see in his eyes. "What are they saying?" Zara asked quietly. "She is Thera, my former second in command. She says I have dishonored myself further by mating with inferior species. She offers me choice, Come willingly for execution, or watch you die slowly first. Rage flooded through Zara. Tell her she can go to hell. But before Kale could translate, Thera raised her weapon toward Zara. The air shimmered with heat as the energy built up, ready to fire. Zara closed her eyes, expecting death, but instead heard Kale roar something in his native tongue. When she opened her eyes, he was standing between her and the weapon, his arms spread wide. Thera's expression had shifted to surprise, then calculation. The other hunters had moved to flank them, cutting off all escape routes. Kale, one of the male hunters, called out in accented English, "You would die for this human female? This soft, weak creature?" "I would," Kale replied without hesitation, "and I would kill any who try to harm her." The hunters exchanged glances, and Zara saw something shift in their expressions. Was it respect? Curiosity? She couldn't tell, but she sensed an opportunity. "If you kill him," she called out, stepping to Kale's side, "you'll never understand what he learned from the Kethrans. The knowledge he gained that made him powerful enough to escape your entire fleet." It was a desperate bluff, but she saw Thara's eyes narrow with interest. Kale shot her a quick glance, understanding immediately what she was trying to do. "The human speaks truth," he said, his voice gaining strength. "I learned things from those you would slaughter, things that could make Valthera even more powerful. If Council had wisdom to listen." Thera lowered her weapon slightly. "What knowledge?" "Kethrans do not just create art and music for beauty," Kale continued, weaving his lie with masterful skill. "They encode information in their patterns, store data in their songs. I discovered their greatest secret, the location of their remaining strongholds, their hidden fleets." The hunters moved closer, their attention completely focused on Kale. Now, Zara felt him squeeze her hand once, a signal. She understood and began edging slowly toward the shuttle, staying in his shadow. "You would share this knowledge?" Thera asked, suspicion warring with greed in her voice. "Only if my mate remains." "Unharmed," Kale said firmly. "She is valuable too, knows human weaknesses, their military codes. Together, we could give Council victory over 2 species." Zara reached the shuttle door and quietly began the startup sequence. The hunters were so focused on Kale's words they didn't notice her movements, but she could see the doubt creeping back into Thara's expression. "Enough games," the female commander snarled, raising her weapon again. "You will come with us now, traitor, and your human will die as example to others who would harbor our enemies." That's when Kale moved. His hand shot out, snatching a weapon from the nearest hunter within human speed. Energy beams lit up the canyon as the battle erupted, Kale moving with the fluid grace of a trained warrior.
Get to the shuttle!"
he shouted over the sound of weapons fire. Zara dove through the open hatch as Kale fought a running battle toward her position. She could see he was magnificent in combat, but he was outnumbered 3-1. One of the energy beams caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around with the impact. "Kale!" She screamed, bringing the shuttle's weapons online. But even as she prepared to fire, she knew they might not escape this time. The hunters were closing in, and Kale was wounded. Everything they'd built together hung by a thread, and that thread was rapidly fraying. The shuttle's guns blazed to life, energy beams streaking past Kale as he dove for the open hatch. Zara's covering fire forced the hunters to take cover, but she knew it wouldn't hold them long. As soon as Kale tumbled through the doorway, she engaged the engines and sent them rocketing into the darkening sky. "Are you hurt badly?" she called over the roar of the engines, not daring to look away from her controls as enemy fire lit up the air around them. "I will live," Kale gasped, pressing a hand to his wounded shoulder. "But they will follow, and more ships will come. Zara, beloved, I have brought death upon us both." 3 silver shapes rose from the canyon behind them, sleek Valkyrie fighters that moved like hunting birds. Zara pushed her shuttle to its limits, but she knew it was only a matter of time before they were caught. Her ship was built for research, not combat. "The asteroid field," she said, spotting their only chance on the navigation display. "If I can reach it, maybe we can lose them in the debris." She threw the shuttle into a violent turn, feeling the G-forces press them back into their seats. Behind them, energy weapons painted deadly patterns across the sky, some passing close enough to make the hull ring like a bell. They reached the asteroid field with their pursuers mere seconds behind. Zara dove between the tumbling rocks, using every trick she'd learned in pilot training. The Valthyri ships followed, but their larger size worked against them in the tight spaces. One of the enemy fighters clipped a rotating asteroid and spun out of control, exploding against a larger rock face. But the other two kept coming, their pilots skilled enough to match her desperate maneuvers. Their Kale pointed toward a hollow asteroid that looked like it might provide temporary shelter. "Can you reach it?" Zara aimed for the opening, but as they approached, one of the pursuing ships managed to get a clean shot. The energy beam struck their starboard engine, sending them into an uncontrolled spin. Sparks flew from the control panels as systems failed one by one. "We're going down," she said, fighting to regain control. "Hold on." It crashed into the hollow asteroid with bone-jarring force, the shuttle's hull screaming against rock as they slid to a stop. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows, and Zara could taste blood where she'd bitten her tongue. Kale was beside her instantly, his hands gentle as he checked her for injuries. "My heart, are you hurt?" "I'm okay," she said, though her head was spinning. "But we're trapped. Life support will last maybe 6 hours, and they'll find us long before then." Through the cracked viewport, they could see the two remaining Valthyri ships taking positions outside the asteroid. They were trapped, with nowhere left to run. Kale pulled her into his arms, holding her tight against his chest. She could feel him trembling and realized it wasn't from fear but from rage at his own helplessness. "I should have stayed away," he whispered into her hair. "Should never have let you risk everything for fallen warrior like me." "Don't you dare," she said fiercely, pulling back to look at him. "Don't you dare regret what we have. I'd rather have these few weeks with you than a lifetime without ever knowing this love." His purple eyes filled with tears that sparkled like liquid starlight. "You are beyond all treasure, Zara Nightwind. In all my travels across the galaxy, I have never found anything as precious as your heart." She kissed him then, pouring all her love and defiance into the contact. If these were to be their last moments, she wanted them to be filled with love, not regret. When they broke apart, she saw resolve settling over his features like armor. "There is one way," he said quietly. "One chance for your survival?" "No," she said, recognizing the look in his eyes. "Whatever you're thinking, no. If I surrender myself, they will take me back to Valthyri for execution. Public trial? Great. Ceremony to show what happens to traitors. It will take time, maybe weeks. Enough for you to escape? Find safe harbor. I won't let you sacrifice yourself for me." Kale cupped her face in his hands, his touch infinitely gentle. "My beloved, my life was over. The moment I chose mercy over duty, you gave me weeks of joy I never expected to have. Let me give you years of life in return." "Kale, please," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "There has to be another way." But before he could answer, the hull rang with the impact of a docking clamp. The hunters had found them. Kale stood, moving toward the airlock with grim determination. "I love you, Zara," he said without turning around. "Remember that when the stars seem darkest, remember that somewhere in the universe, someone loved you more than life itself." The airlock began to cycle open. Kale stepped forward to meet his fate, his shoulders straight with dignity. But as the inner door opened, Zara made her own choice. She lunged forward, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Please," she whispered against his back, her voice breaking with emotion. "I still love you. Don't leave me alone in this universe." Kale turned in her arms, his eyes wide with surprise and heartbreak. For a moment, the universe held its breath. Then Thera stepped through the airlock, her weapon trained on them both. "How touching," she said in accented English. Nodded. The traitor and his pet ready to die together. But as she raised her weapon, alarms began blaring from her own ship. Through the viewport, they could see human military vessels dropping out of hyperspace, their guns already powering up. "It seems," Zara said, with a smile that was pure defiance, "my distress beacon finally reached someone who cares." In the chaos that followed, As human and Valkyrie ships engaged in fierce battle, Kale and Zara clung to each other. Whatever happened. Next, they would face it together, two hearts united across the vastness of space. Love. It seemed was the strongest force in any universe.